Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have a little, actually a really big birthday book haul for you. Okay, so last week was actually my 38th birthday and my dad came to visit. So that means a couple of things. It means I got a lot of books. So I wanted to show you guys my book haul that I got for my 38th birthday. Sadly, I almost made it cool. I got 31 books for my birthday. If I had gotten 7 more books, then it would have been 38 books for my 38th birthday. But it didn't work out that way. So that's okay though. 31 is still a lot for just receiving books for my birthday. So I'm going to show you all of the ones that I got. And yeah, I'm super excited. Okay, so to start it off, we are going to go with the random ones that my dad picked up. So I got books from my dad, from my mom, from my in-laws, from my friends in my book group, from my husband, from my kids. There was just a lot of books. I don't necessarily recall who I got what from. A lot of it was just money given to me, and then I went shopping at Barnes & Noble, so I told them thank you at the time, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, so the first book that I got, my dad picked this up because we are from New York originally, so Sarcasm is something that is kind of bred into us. So my dad saw this one. It was one of the discounted books at Barnes & Noble, and it is the official dictionary of sarcasm, and it's absolutely hilarious. So inside is just definitions. It's like a little dictionary, and there's a word, and then it's a sarcastic definition of it. So like, for example, elderly, of advanced years, or as it's known in the entertainment industry, 27. You know what I mean? These are like hilarious. So there's a lot of sarcasm in this book, so I really enjoy it. Next one that I got is actually going to be a compilation of Irish ghost stories. So again, this is another one that my dad got for me. So my dad is of European American heritage. My grandma's family was Irish. So anything that has to do with like mythology and history from Ireland, I find to be extremely interesting. It's just kind of a part of my heritage. There are a lot of things that are part of my heritage. I'm basically like a mutt of heritages. My family's a melting pot, and I mean, if you threw rice on a map, like, and anywhere that it touched, you can find that DNA somewhere in my ancestry. So I do like to explore stories and myths and just the cultures of my heritage. So Dad picked this up, and I think it's going to be super interesting to read because I love spooky ghost stories. Next on my list is actually a sequel. There are a lot of sequels in here, so I bought a lot of sequels. Some are for books that I haven't even read yet, which is really sad, but I didn't want to miss out on the sprayed edges, so I got them. So the next one that I picked up was The Fox and the Falcon, which is the second book in the No Other Gods series by Piper CJ. She's a TikToker, honestly. I don't know her any other way. She was a TikToker, a girl who has a master's degree in folklore, and she would go on TikTok and she would, you know, tell you all these interesting facts about folklore, and then she became a writer. I heard that her first series wasn't the greatest, but that this one wasn't too bad, so I decided to pick up the sequel. I have the first one. I still have not read it. The first one is The Deer and the Dragon, and I believe that it is urban fantasy, like it's set modernly, with fantastical elements. I'm not entirely sure what the overall plot is. I think it's a girl in the modern day. I think there's gods involved. I mean, it would make sense because, you know, the book is called No Other Gods, but I picked up the sequel because I wanted to make sure that by the time I got around to it, I had the one with the sprayed edges. So the next book on the list is another sequel that I haven't even started the series on, and that is the Scythe and the Sparrow. So this is a contemporary romance, but it follows serial killers. I know that the first one were serial killers. Like, they were serial killers who like dextered people, right? So they like serial killers who killed bad people. And this is actually the third one in the series. I believe that these are all like standalone interconnected romances, as most romance series are, but I just picked it up because when I do binge read them, I'm probably going to be binge reading all of them because I go through romances pretty quickly. I heard the first one was really good. I heard the second one was kind of eh. I'm hoping the third one will be good. I love dark romance, but these are like comedic dark romances if I remember correctly. So hey, I like rom-coms and I like dark romance, so if we're gonna put them together, this might be amazing. Next on the list, I have never heard of. So this is Frosted Torment. It is a indie published book, I believe. So the author is a local author to my area. She did a signing at the Barnes & Noble near me. So this is a signed edition. These were just left over from the actual signing. So I picked it up because I always want to support local authors. So I wanted to give it a try and see how it would go. From what I can tell, the main character has dormant powers. There's like the spirit world, and the main character sets out to avenge her mother's death. So, I mean, it's right up my alley. I mean, there's like other worlds, there's spirits, there's death, there's revenge. And yeah, it sounds absolutely lovely. So I picked this one up again because I always like to support local authors. So it's pretty cool. Next, I have these three. This one, and this one, and this one. So I have read these already. Actually, no, it goes like this. So I've actually read these already. I read these on Kindle way back in the day. I never owned any copies of them, and I've been wanting to once I saw that they were like traditionally published and like out in the world. I've been wanting to pick them up, so I finally did for my birthday. We have Flock, Exodus, and the final, or the finish line. The finish line? The finish line. So this is a contemporary romance, kind of with a mafia-ish vibe, but they're not mafia. They're just like a gang group situation. And there's like polyamorous relationship in these. This one is not. This book is one of the only other books that made me as devastated and cry as like Kingdom of Ash. Like, Kingdom of Ash made me cry hysterically, and this one made me cry just as badly. Like, I bawled for days. Like, I don't even know why. Like, I didn't think I had that much emotional attachment. Oh, I did, and I cried, and it was terrible. So I got these three. One, because I wanted them, but also because there's a new one that came out. So this is, I don't know the purpose of this, I'll be honest with you. So Flock follows a girl who goes to live with her dad. She gets into a relationship with two best friends, and there's just like a whole bunch of stuff in the background. I don't remember all of the details, but they have like their hands in things that they shouldn't, and like the guys are like, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but anyways. So this seems to be just a retelling of those books, but from one of the male characters' point of views instead of the female character's point of view. And it says that it's the Legacies series. And I'm like, okay, so originally I thought, are they doing like their kids? Are they, because usually that's what Legacy is, like the kids. But this one just seems to be a retelling from his perspective, but with more information. So I think this might be the tie-in between the original Ravenhood series and like the next grouping, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what the function is, but there was another book, so I had to pick it up, and I'm gonna read it. And then I got Nightingale. So I have been wanting to read this. It's a historical fiction. World War II, I believe, following sisters during German-occupied France, right? Yes. So it is World War II story following sisters. It's just, you know, a tale about the women's war, like what women went through during the war. There's a lot of stories about what the men experienced, and there's not a whole lot about like the women's stories in the war. So this is a story kind of covering that's a historical fantasy or historical fiction. And this is just a really pretty edition. This is like the 10th anniversary edition of it, and it's got like sprayed edges and stuff. So I picked it up and I was super excited because I'm like, well, I've been wanting to read it. This is a gorgeous edition, like absolutely gorgeous edition. So I might as well get the pretty edition so that I can read it. So super excited about that one. While I was over in that section, I also picked up The Women, which is another historical fantasy, but this one is the Vietnam War. I believe it was on sale, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna pick it up. So she joins up as an army nurse because her brother joins up as a soldier, and it follows her story not only during the war but like the experience coming home, because I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the Vietnam War was highly protested in America. People were not happy about it. A lot of people felt like we were sticking our noses in places that we shouldn't have been. So the struggle wasn't just the war itself and all of the terrible things that happened during the war, because it was a vicious war, but also, you know, the public opinion back home about us joining that war. So these two books I actually got from my book club. So they got together and everyone put together a nice little birthday gift basket for me, which was super sweet. I got like a mug and candles and a bookish tote and like a pen and a little notebook and like books. It was great. Like I just absolutely loved the basket that they put together. So the first book that I got, The Witchfinder's Sister, is actually a historical fiction. A historical fiction or historical fantasy. I think it's historical fiction, but it's based in the time of the Salem witch trials. You know, women going up on trial, being persecuted, being falsely accused, burned, all of that kind of stuff. So I love that time period, and I'm actually like super excited for this book. I've never heard of it, but I'm super excited to read it. Then the other book that I got is actually The Forgotten Book of Witches. So it is a dark and twisted folklore from around the world. So this is going to be witch folklore from around the world, and I love this kind of stuff. I love learning what other cultures' mythology and folklore and everything is, and I'm super excited to just kind of read what people believe, what people understand, like their, you know, different stories. And this book is gorgeous. It's got great art in it, and I'm super excited to read it. I love art, I love history, I love all of it. So they were awesome selections from my book group, so I was excited. Next book I got is A September House. So I feel like I should have gotten it when it was in hardcover, but I got the paperback, which doesn't make that much of a difference. But I'm trying to test the waters with horror. So I know I like horror movies in some aspects. Like I like spooky ones, like ones with ghosts and stuff like that. I used to love ones based on like religion until I saw The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and now I don't do that anymore because that scares me to death. I'm not like a slasher flick person. Like I never watched like Saw or anything, but like a good ghost story, love it. So I'm thinking a good ghost story book would be right up my alley. So I decided to pick this one up. It is The September House. It is a horror. It is supposed to be a ghost story. I don't know if it really is, but the house is like haunted, and woman buys a Victorian house, and there's a whole bunch of surprises, like the walls are dripping blood and stuff like that. So I'm assuming the house is haunted. You never know. With these, there could be some sort of twist at the end, and she's like dreaming or losing her mind or whatever. But as far as I know, haunted house, I picked it up. I'm super excited to read it. And the next one I picked up is actually Greenteeth. This one is about a monster, a charming monster, actually, who lives in a lake, I believe. And the monster of the lake is intending to help a witch overthrow the evil pastor of the town, who is just kind of ruining everything and hurting people. So I thought that it was absolutely adorable. And like, look at that cover art. Like, she looks creepy on top. Like, I'm super excited. There's like magic and mystery, and I'm excited. Like, it sounded super good. It's a cozy fantasy about a witch and a monster. Next on my list that I picked up is The Other Post. So The Other Post is written by the same author that wrote Hotel Magnifique, which I really enjoyed. It had very Caraval vibes. It was a YA. I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was super cute. So this is her next book. So in this one, the main character's father was arrested, I believe, or killed, or something to do with her father. She lost her father, and they believe he committed a crime, which is why he was taken away. And I don't know if he was killed or if he's just arrested. But anyways, so her father was taken away. She's been hiding who she really is, basically keeping like her name, like changing her name and stuff like that, so people don't realize that she is the daughter of that man. But she finds out that her father was wrongly imprisoned or killed or whatever. He was wrongly charged. And I'm assuming it's probably in prison because this is a YA. But he's wrongfully charged or accused of this crime. It wasn't him, and she goes on a quest to figure out the truth to kind of clear his name. So it sounded really good, and I'm super excited. I picked it up mainly because I liked the author's first book, so I'm assuming that I'm gonna like this one. But I was super excited about it, so I got that. Okay, so the next one that I got is The Forest King's Daughter. This one just released. It is a YA romance, if I am correct. And not a romantasy, fantasy romance. It would be more of a fantasy romance. It's not a romantasy. And it's kind of got like a Romeo and Juliet vibe. So like the prince ends up giving something to a princess from a warring kingdom, a gift, and that gift was just like a little trinket that he thought was important. And then that ends up setting off like a chain of reaction, and then there's like a war to get it back because apparently it was something really important. And the main female character is like, soldier in her dad's army because she is the Forest King's daughter. And I believe that like the relationship between the two, the prince and the princess of the other kingdom, like opposing kingdoms, that they develop some sort of relationship, and it's going to be like a star-crossed lovers kind of situation. So it sounded really good, and I wanted to read it because I love fantasy, and I like romantic fantasy stories, and I love YA. I seem to like YA honestly better than adult like romantasy, and I don't know why. It's not like the smut or anything. I like smut, I don't mind it. I just find, I don't know, I find them to be more, I don't know why. I love YA. So I'm a 38-year-old woman who loves YA fantasy, okay? Don't judge me. All right, so the next book that I picked up was the new Kingfisher story, Swordheart. I believe this one is also a fantasy romance, and basically a girl, wealthy family, all that kind of stuff. Something's going on. She's locked in a room. She finds a dusty sword, and she pulls the sword out of the sheath, and a man appears. There is actually a guy trapped inside of the sword, and they go on adventures to save the day. So I thought that was freaking cool. The concept of like someone being trapped inside of a sword, and then, you know, taking the sword out frees them while the sword is out. So I was super excited to pick this one up, and I did. So this one's probably actually going to be pretty high on my TBR because it sounds super, super cool. The next one I actually picked up when I was at the North Texas Teen Book Festival that I went to on my birthday, and this is I Am Made of Death by Kelly Andrews. She is the author of Your Blood, My Bones and In the Whispering Dark, and I absolutely love her books. They are, let me take the stickers and stuff out. I got a cool little art print with it, and it is signed. I got a bookmark too. So her stories always have like a creepy vibe, and I absolutely love it. So this one follows a boy. He is the child of a deaf person, and then he meets a girl who cannot speak, and she's trying to get her voice back, and there's something to do with like a surgical exorcism. I don't know what that is. And he's trying to save her, and she's trying to get away from him, and it seems really interesting. I do love the deaf representation that Kelly Andrews puts in a lot of her book. Whispering Dark, the main character was deaf, so I do enjoy the representation. I wonder if Kelly Andrews has someone in her family who has a hearing disability, but this one sounded really good, so I decided to get it. I just love her books. I love her writing in general. Like, they just, the right amount of creep. I don't know. I just love them. So I picked this one up. I'm super excited about it. Next on the list is this one. I think this is a recently traditionally published book, which is why the first one and the second one are out like damn near at the same time. I almost got this from Book of the Month a couple months ago, and then I didn't. Because honestly, if I can avoid getting it from Book of the Month, I will. Because I hate how it says like Book of the Month on the thing. Like, I hate that so much. So I try and avoid it at all costs. So I didn't get it, and I ended up just buying it this. I know the sequel is out. My Barnes & Noble had the first one. It didn't have the sequel. The other Barnes & Noble that's close to me, like I live in between two of them, that one had the sequel, but not the first one. So it's like, what do? I decided to obviously get the first one. I'll get the sequel later. But this is a fantasy. So the main character of this book is running for her life from the queen, who has sent assassins or something after her. So she's running, and she finds herself on a road, dark, mysterious, dangerous, creepy road, the Road of Bones. And she comes across like a band of thieves or murderers, or just like a gang of some sort. I don't know which gang, what type of gang they are exactly, but she comes across a gang, and she is hoping to ride with them for her safety. So she has to like sweet talk the leader of the gang. I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of romantic element between the two of them. Romance seems to be just the thing that's selling right now, so everything has a romance in it, which again, I'm not mad at. I like romance a lot. There was a while there where I couldn't read anything that didn't have romance in it. That has since changed, but that's okay. So I picked this one up. I'm super excited to read it. I heard really good things about it, and yay. Next one is actually one that it's a historical fantasy set in Florence. The Stone Witch of Florence. The main character of this, she is a witch. She lives in Florence. The plague is around, and a kid knocks on her door to gain her assistance using stones magic to heal somebody. Hold on. To heal somebody. I can't remember. I received an arc of this. I think it's just to save everyone. Like they just want her help trying to stop the plague. So I received an arc of this, like a digital arc back from NetGalley way before it came out. And I never finished it. I started it, but I never finished it because I got it like right before I started like looking to buy a house. It was just bad timing. Like I started the like house looking, buying process, and then I had the moving process, and then the fixing and unpacking, and so I just never got around to it. So I figured it's out now. I might as well buy a copy of it so I can actually read it. And I mean, it's too late to do the review for the arc, but it is what it is. I still want to read it, and it's a really pretty copy, so I got that one. So next is 2 books. So the first one is Dragonfall. So I remember when this book came out, it was like a Goldsboro book that I had missed. And then I was trying to get it, I was gonna get it in hardcover, and then I never got it in hardcover, and then I was gonna get it in paperback, and then I was like, no, I don't really want it in paperback. And then they came out with like a deluxe edition with sprayed edges. So I'm super excited. I picked it up. Dragonfall. It is a dragon story. It first came out like right around the time like Fourth Wing was getting hyped, and everybody was like dragons, but it's not that kind of dragons. So in this one, the dragons, basically the humans stole the dragon's power. Dragons aren't happy about it. Now the dragons are worshipped as gods, but the dragons are still mad. Even though they're worshipped as gods, they're still mad that the humans stole. They didn't forget about it. So this story follows a dragon who basically hooks up with a thief. They bond together. They're gonna go steal something, I guess, and like the dragon doesn't intend to keep the thief around. He's just kind of like leading him on. So that's supposedly the story. We'll see. I haven't read it, but I'm super excited about it. And then they also had the sequel, which I'm super happy about. Now, the thing that I am mad about between these two is this is a square bound one and this is not. So you can tell that these were printed by two different companies, but they made them match, and they're both pretty and whatever, but they're just not the same style of book. They were not printed at the same printing company, but it's okay. So I got the sequel to it, which is the Pretty Sprayed edition. And I mean, I'm super excited. I don't know what this one is about, obviously, because it would probably spoil what is going on in this one. And I don't want to do that, or at least I have both of them now, so I can just kind of read through all of it. Next is another dragon book. There's a theme. No, I'm just kidding. So this is the Breath of the Dragon, which is actually, I think, an Asian inspired fantasy. It is a young warrior, Torment, his skills, you know, he's fighting, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that there is actually any dragons. I think it's just like the spirit of the dragon, that there's not actually dragons in here. I could be wrong, but I think that I think it's just the spirit of dragons rather than an actual like dragon. On to the last stack. So the last stack is definitely all sequels. So the next one I picked up was God of Fury, which is the fifth book in the Legacy of Gods series by Rina Kent. I do want to get the first book. So this actually follows their kids, right? So there's the legacy thing, right? So the first series by Rina Kent is The Deviant Something, I believe. I read like the first 2 and then I never finished the series, but I want to get those. I read them on Kindle, but I want to get those in physical copies. This is actually the Legacy series. So I've only read the first one in this series, and I stopped once I realized that they were the kids of the other people. So I wanted to finish that one first before I read this one, but this is the one that Rina Kent is re-releasing in all the pretty sprayed edges. So I'm picking them up so that I have all of them for when I finish the parents version of this. So this is the Legacy of Gods. They're dark romance. They follow different characters. It's episodic. Each book follows a different couple. The first one that I read was a girl and a literal psychopath. He, you know, wanted to kill her. I wanted to record her dying, right? He wanted her to die. He wanted to record her dying. It's weird. Don't judge me, but I do like dark romance, and he was a psychopath. So I got this one. 5th one. I think the last one comes out. She's re-releasing them. It's like one every month. So I think the last one comes out beginning of April. Next one I got was Rebel Witch, which is the sequel to The Crimson Moth, or the Heartless Hunter. I keep saying Huntsman. It's Hunter. The Heartless Hunter. This is the American edition. It is signed by the author. I got it at the book festival. I bought this one because I didn't want to wait for my Fairy Loot edition of it to get to me, because the sale for the Fairy Loot one doesn't even go up until like the end of April, and then the book isn't going to ship until like December 2025 or like January of 2026, and I didn't want to wait that long to find out what happened. So I bought this copy. This is the one I'm gonna read, and then I'll give it to my daughter because she has the first one in the American editions. And then I'll just keep my Fairy Loot edition or whatever when it comes in. But the first one is super good. So it's a witch hunter and a witch, and they're both playing each other for information. But then you can tell that they're kind of falling in love, but then things blow up in the end, and then this one comes into play. So it's super good. I highly recommend it, and I'm super excited to finish the duology. Next one I got is Heavenly Tyrant. So this is a sequel. I have not read the first book. I'll be honest with you. I have not read the first book, but there was a lot of controversy around how the publishing industry treats authors because of what happened to this author. This book was supposed to come out several years ago, and it didn't. It finally came out, so I'm like, okay, well, I need to buy the book because I need to support the author, even though I haven't read the first book yet. But that's okay because I'm going to, and then now I have the second one. So the next one that I got was actually Carving Shadows into Gold. So this is the sequel, I believe, to Forging Silver into Stars. I believe it's the sequel. If it is, it came out like way later than the first book. It came out way later than the first book. I actually have the Fairy Loot edition of the first book, which is teeny tiny, and this is not teeny tiny. Here, I'm gonna show you. So this is the Fairy Loot version of the first book, right? This is the second book. I haven't seen any announcements for Fairy Loot doing a matching one, so I was afraid that they're not going to, so I just picked up this copy. And if they end up doing it and I get it to match, then that's fine. I'll just rehome this one like I usually do. But I figured I'd get it. Have not read the first one, I'll be honest with you. I own all of her books. They're all right there. I own all of her books. I think I've read 2 of them. I read the first one in the Curse of Darkness series, and I read the first one in the Defy the Night series, and I haven't finished any of them. And then I haven't read this one, so I just need to start reading. I need to start reading. Oh, geez. There's so many series. So absolutely many series that I need to finish. I'm just gonna set that there for now. So yeah, so this is the sequel. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know what it's about. I just buy all of her books. I just buy all of her books. Same thing for Chloe Gong. I've never finished a Chloe Gong book. I started These Violent Delights, I think it's called. I started that. Chloe Gong. Never finished it. I own all of her books. I own a copy of all of her books. I don't even know if I like her writing all that much, because I've only gotten halfway through the first one, but I own all of her books, and the same thing goes for Bridget. That's why I got this. So, well, yay for me and my problems. All right, the next one, another sequel. And I have read the first book. I have not read the second one, but this is the third one. So these were indie published, so they're just slowly like releasing the ones. I think the fourth one in the indie published, the fourth one was already released, but not the hardcover. I think it's just digitally released. But these are the traditional published versions of this series. It is the Spark of the Everflame. So there's Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, and this is Heat of the Everflame. This just came out. I saw it. I was like, I gotta scoop it up. I didn't want to go too far without like the books being out, because it is kind of a bingeable series. It's gonna be your traditional like Shadow Daddy. She's a healer, human. There's the political imbalance between the humans and the Fae. They're not called Fae, but they're basically Fae. She has a secret. I'm pretty sure she was like stolen from somewhere. Like her parents aren't really her parents. I don't know. It's a situation, but it's good. I like it, and I wanted to read it. So I got the third one, and I just now have to read the second one. And then hopefully the fourth one will be out in a reasonable amount of time so that I can read that one. Next is another sequel for a book that I haven't read. So the first one is The Son of Darkness. First one is The Son of Darkness. This is The Dance of Shadows. It's gorgeous. It's super thick. It is a South Asian inspired story. I don't know if it's Indian or Pakistani. You never want to confuse the two, so I want to give due where it's due. But it is a South Asian story. Kingdoms, it's political fantasy. Kings, queens, pirates, all of the good stuff that I absolutely love. I do need to read the first one because it sounded really freaking good, and I just haven't gotten around to it, and I'm just mad at myself. Maybe I'll read it for March because I'm reading political fantasies for March, so maybe I'll pick that one up. But then that's starting another series that I don't know if I'll ever finish because I bought this, but who knows if I'll ever read it, because I've already come to terms with the fact that I probably, unless like society collapses and they don't release any more books ever again, that is the only way that I would be able to read all of the books that I own, because I just keep buying them and I don't read them faster than I buy them. I read 7 books in the month of February, and in like a week I bought 31, or I got 31. That's insane. I have issues. Anyways, and the last book of my book haul is A Burning in the Bones. So this is the third book in the, I don't know if it's the Door in the Darkness series, but the first book is the Door in the Darkness. And I actually have it right here. I read this one. It's a YA fantasy kind of, the light is doing this no justice. Can you see? Anyways, that's the book. It's just really shiny, so like the light is terrible for it. But it is a kind of, it feels dark academia. I don't know if it really is dark academia. It starts off at a college, but then the rest of the book is spent in the wilderness. So there is a girl really wants to get a job with one of the major families who kind of control all the magic and everything. She's like straight A student, top of her class, all that, but because she doesn't come from like a wealthy family, no one's really considering her. It's very cliquey and that sort of a thing. So as everyone's going home for break, it's like her, two other kids who live like in their scholarship kids basically. They live in like the more poorer neighborhoods. Her best friend, and then two of like the rich, snooty, popular kids. And they're in like this elevator system because the college is in like a floating island in the sky. So there's an elevator system and they're going down to bring them all back down to the mainland, and something goes awry with the magic and all of them get teleported hundreds of miles away in the woods in like the desolate area, and they are trying to make their way back to civilization, and in the process like they're attacked, there's monsters, there's like just things out in the woods trying to kill them, and yeah, so they're just trying to survive and make their way back. So this is actually the third book in the series. I read the first one, I have the second one, this is the third one, so I have it. I don't know if it's a trilogy, but it came out so I picked it up. But now I have two hardcovers and a paperback, so I think I'm gonna need to replace this and see if I can find a hardcover version of it somewhere. Maybe Amazon will have it. I hate buying from Amazon, but it is what it is. Okay, now that I'm done rambling about all of my many books that I received for my birthday, I'm super excited that I got all of these. It's overwhelming, one, that so many people like care enough to support my addiction of books, but it's also overwhelming in the fact that now I have like more choices. So many more choices. Like having a substantial library is an amazing thing. Like I love it. It brings me joy every single day to just walk in my home and sit down and see my books and just be surrounded by them, and, you know, having so many options. I'm in 2 different book clubs, and the 2 books chosen for this month, I already own them. They're on my shelf. So I was just like, oh, this book and this book. So it's exciting. It brings me joy. But in that same respect, having such a large library can be stressful because there's so many options, and I'm such an indecisive person. So I'm like, I never know what I want to read, and it's not like, oh, well, you have 2 books that you choose from. No, I have 1,000 books that I can choose from, and I don't know which one I want out of those 1,000. So it's a blessing and a curse all at the same time. Some of you out there are probably like, it's not a curse, but it's rough. It's rough sometimes just trying to be able to pick like what to read next. I have to play all these games and these challenges and everything to help me choose what book I'm gonna read next, because there's just so many options like in my house. I don't even go out and like buy books for challenges. They're all here. I can find you something. Name something and I can find it for you somewhere in here. But anyways, it's enough of my ranting and my first world problems. But if you've read any of these books that I received, please let me know in the comments if you really like them. That way I can move them up on my TBR, maybe use them for a challenge, or, you know, something. If there's a theme in any of these books that goes with anything in the month of March, let me know and I can read it. If there's any political fantasies in here that you know of that I might not be aware it's a political fantasy, let me know. That way I can move it up my TBR for the month of March, because I need to read political fantasies this month. Thank you guys again for tuning in for another one of my videos. If you happen to like this video, don't forget to like it. It helps me out with the algorithm. And if you haven't already, do not forget to subscribe. That way you can get more bookish of videos from me. You can see me go on other tangents about books and libraries and woe is me. Because, yeah, anyways. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time. Bye.